Pastor Roy Gerhart from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. What if your friend came over to your house and introduced his new wife and said, "This is Rahab. She was a prostitute." What are you going to think? I mean, are you going to sit there and think in your mind, what do you mean you married a prostitute? Did you buy your wife? You may even have all kinds of images that come to mind. You're thinking, what kind of a person have you married? I mean, her whole life was encompassed in immorality and sin. That was her occupation. How could you marry a person like that? And then you might even be moved to wonder, wait, why did she become a prostitute? Why was she doing that? You may even be moved with compassion to consider that she may have been a person trafficked into that role, not of her own choice, but being used and abused. Maybe you finally wonder, was she a person who was so desperate that she had nothing else that she could do in order to survive? Now that would be a move in the right direction, because it would challenge our perceptions, which sometimes we are so quick to judge people when we know one thing about them, and we then conjure up all kinds of ideas about them. Sometimes we even look at ourselves in the mirror in the same way and think, you've fallen too low. Not even God can help you. And we write other people off and we write ourselves off without believing in the possibilities of what God could do. But the story of Rahab is in the Bible with no filters and nothing hidden. There's no effort to disguise her past. In fact, it's the very first thing that we are told about her when we're introduced. Rahab, the prostitute. She's the one who saved the spies that Joshua had sent into the city of Jericho. She covered for them. She protected them. She put her own life on the line for their sake. And so there's something about her story that made her memorable, worth remembering, worth retelling her tale. And what it is that Rahab, the prostitute, was a person who showed character. She showed it in rescuing these spies, not just because she was afraid of the army that was coming down the road with them, but she had a faith in God. Here she was, a person in Jericho whose life was nothing to write home about, but she believed in God. And because she believed that their God was handing over all of this to the people of Israel, she wanted to turn to them for help. She wanted help from the Lord. And she is a person who cares for others. She protected not only those spies and wasn't doing it just to gain leverage to look out for herself. She was caring for her whole family. She wanted them to rescue not only herself, but her mother and father, her brothers and sisters, and everyone in their families. And so that she is a person who cares like that. There's some good character there that stands out immediately despite the occupation that she was living in. And that is noteworthy. And her life was changed. That is noteworthy. She not only is rescued from the destruction of Jericho, she is rescued from her old way of life. When she became part of the people of Israel, it was a lasting connection. In fact, we're told that she lived amongst the people of Israel for the rest of her life. And she was not as an outsider living among them. She became a wife. And she and her husband Salmon gave birth to a son named Boaz, who gave birth then in turn to Obed, who then fathered Jesse, who was the father of King David. Every time you tell the story of the people of Israel entering the promised land, of the days of King David, you have to hear about Rahab, that was delivered by the Lord because of her faith and trust in him. And not only does her story extend to King David, but it's included as part of the whole genealogy of Jesus. Every time we hear about God's promises being fulfilled, of a promised land, a wondrous king, and a savior, we hear mention of Rahab. She was a prostitute. because her story is a story of God's deliverance, of his redeeming love, that he is there to lift up people no matter how far down they've fallen. He's there to change people's lives no matter how much sin has encompassed them and ruined them. God is our deliverer, a savior. That's what his promise is all about. And so the story of Rahab, it's a perfect story to hear of God who saves those who have been lost, who have fallen, who have been broken, who turn to him. May God bless you today. And as you share this good news, may God make you a blessing wherever he takes you.